Activision Blizzard is entering full-on desperation mode. Despite record profits, they've made a shocking decision to bring loot boxes back to Overwatch, and this isn't like some nostalgic throwback to the original game. It's a desperate cash grab at a time when the hero shooter market is shifting in ways Blizzard never anticipated. The arrival of Marvel Rivals has completely reshaped the genre, taking the top spot that Overwatch has held for years and forcing Blizzard to finally put effort into a game they've been comfortable treating like a piggy bank. Instead of focusing on delivering new content or fulfilling player promises, Blizzard has decided to get their player base addicted to gambling again. It's a desperate attempt to draw interest back into a game that has largely left its audience unsatisfied over the years while targeting gambling whales to keep their revenue afloat. But what they fail to realize is that this is harmful to their player base, many of whom are minors and easily susceptible to gambling addictions. After the initial removal of loot boxes due to legal concerns and regulatory pressure, Overwatch was forced to shift its monetization model to a battle pass system. This change seemed to remove any passion for the game the devs had, and they basically began to coast on brand loyalty, relying on their hero roster to keep players engaged while minimizing actual innovation to the gameplay. For players like me who once adored Overwatch, it was devastating to watch the game stagnate. Each update felt more like a corporate cash injection than an actual improvement. Overwatch wasn't making money like it used to, so they just started milking the remaining players with more cosmetics. Now faced with the real competitor in Marvel Rivals, they're scrambling. But instead of reinvesting in Overwatch's future, they've doubled down on one of the worst aspects of their past. When Overwatch first launched in 2016, other FPS games like Call of Duty were struggling with identity crisis. I hated the direction they took with Infinite Warfare, turning it into a competitor for Titanfall with new exosuits. Overwatch filled this void for me with interesting dynamic team-based gameplay that gave a fresh take on competitive shooters. I was blessed to have an uncle who was and still is a hardcore gamer, who would end up buying me a copy so that I could try it out myself, and I was hooked from the start. For many teenage players, including myself, Overwatch was more than just a game. It was an obsession. I was addicted to the loot boxes. I was getting hooked on gambling. Now granted, I never actually had the money to pay to get these, but what the game offered as rewards for playtime in most cases back then was a loot box. So the reason I was so hooked on Overwatch was because of this gambling funnel and reward system they had created where you play the game for hours and grind a level just to get a loot box, another spin at the roulette wheel. As time went on, Blizzard stopped evolving the game, and my own interest as well as a lot of other players was waning. It didn't take long before Overwatch started to feel repetitive, and instead of shaking up the formula, Blizzard leaned into its live service model, focusing more on monetization than actual content. The time between the release of new characters was increasing, going from 2 to 3 new characters a year to being lucky to get any new characters at all. Loot boxes were getting pushed so heavily that it slowly became the main retention loop for most players, keeping them hooked in. But Blizzard struggled to keep up and maintain the game as their loot boxes would start getting banned across the world. Countries were preventing players from accessing the game due to worries over the negative effects that would result from playing the game. Players were leaving in droves, alienated from being suckered into what was essentially a casino and getting tired of the game never getting updated. Blizzard knew that they needed to fix their reputation and rework their monetization system, which led to them releasing Overwatch 2, a sequel that was supposed to breathe new life into the franchise and bring quality improvements that players had been asking about for years. Players expected new mechanics and, most importantly, PvE content. Instead, what we got was a glorified update with even more aggressive monetization and a cancelled PvE mode that was the game's biggest selling point. For many players, Overwatch 2 wasn't a sequel, it was a scam. Blizzard promised the moon to their fans, but all they delivered was more skins to buy, a battle pass to grind, and even fewer reasons to actually play the game. And that was before Marvel Rivals had entered the scene. Now, Rivals has completely upended the hero shooter space. It took Overwatch's DNA and evolved it into something new, something that felt fresh, dynamic, and fun. Marvel Rivals added mechanics that players actually wanted, such as more impactful hero and team abilities, a better progression system, and a third-person camera perspective that actually lets you see the skins you're spending your hard-earned money on. Rivals also amassed over 10 million players within its first 3 days of release, which was surprising at the time considering that initial reactions to the game predicted that it would be a major flop, but it did the exact opposite and has actually swallowed a large portion of Overwatch's player base. And now Blizzard is scrambling to play catch-up, but instead of innovating on their own terms, Blizzard is frantically copying whatever is popular elsewhere. Their latest update introduces a perk system, an idea directly ripped from Apex Legends, and now after years of resistance, they're finally adding a third-person mode to the game. But here's the problem. None of this is coming from a place of passion or creativity. Perhaps the most blatant sign of Blizzard's desperation is the return of loot boxes, a move that is as greedy as it is tone-deaf. Blizzard themselves pivoted away from them when Overwatch 2 launched, using it as a selling point to convince players that their monetization system was now better. But now they're bringing them back because they have no better options. Blizzard is willing to regress into outdated, unethical monetization tactics because shareholders demand infinite growth. Game development costs are rising, the market is more competitive than ever, and the only way to squeeze more money out of an already exhausted player base is to push them into gambling mechanics. This is not the move of a company that is thriving. This is the move of a company that is struggling to hold on to relevance. Blizzard's strategy now is short-term survival at the cost of long-term damage. They're betting on loot boxes, and last-minute mechanics stolen from competitors to keep Overwatch relevant for just a little longer. But it won't work. The market has changed and players have changed with it. Gamers are more aware than ever of exploitive monetization tactics. They recognize copy-paste updates for what they are, and most importantly, they have better options now. Marvel Rivals isn't just another hero shooter, it's a direct competitor that's already proving itself a superior alternative. It's giving players the innovation Blizzard refused to offer, and if Overwatch's core audience keeps jumping ship, no amount of loot boxes, perk systems, or third-person modes will save it. The only way Overwatch survives is if Blizzard actually reinvests in the game, not just by copying trends, but by genuinely listening to the community, creating new experiences, and bringing back the sense of fun and excitement that made the original so beloved. Well, that's all I have for today's video. If you guys did enjoy it, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel to stay updated. Thanks again for watching, and have a good one.